Dan, question for you. Typically, when people think about following you, they'll see the videos with the girls, with the yachts, with the shooting, with all the crazy stuff that you do. You've been a little bit low key lately, and a picture came out. You know, hey, I'm married. You know, you kind of fool people. But what's been happening with Dan lately? Because we're not seeing the same old Dan.
Yeah, so I was pretty crazy, and then COVID hit, and I took that time, and I was like, I'm going to write my book. So spent, I don't know, 18 months, 2 years writing the book and doing the edits, mostly the edits. And then after that, I kind of like, had a little bit of a backslide. During that time, I realized like the hedonistic stuff wasn't really making me happy. Like I looked at all the stuff that I did in my life, things that made me happy, things that didn't. And I kind of like just beat all my addictions at that time. I beat my sex addiction, my weed addiction, gambling, all the stuff. And I just realized that the hedonistic treadmill wasn't the answer. I mean, it was fun. It was pleasure seeking stuff. What caused the stop?
What caused for you to? I mean, you're going 1,000,000 miles an hour. So what caused you to say, I want to slow this thing down?
So initially I started off going pretty strong about 2012, and that was kind of when I like started getting famous. And I went really hard till 16. That was kind of like my rock star time. And then I got a girlfriend till 17, and I had like a, year to reflect and kind of like go on a couple vacations and do normal shit. And I was way happier doing that. And then at the end of that year, I kind of, weed became legal, and I'm still like, getting people coming up to me all the time, all corners of the earth. And I just realized like I should turn this into something, like I should monetize this in some way. If I'm taking pictures in every fucking, like Costco for the rest of my life, I'm gonna be pissed off, if I didn't do something with it. And so I started Ignite, and I felt like, I smoked weed all the time. It was, made sense. And it just, it was not the answer. The weed was not the answer. We ended up going to nicotine, and that did well. But the process of doing it was kind of like an amplification of everything that I'd done before. I kind of like just raised the bar on all of it. And it was fun, but the pleasure seeking has ends, like it's like a drug, like you can only eat so much Percocet, and then you got to eat more Percocet to get the same feeling. Then eventually you have to take it and not feel like shit. And pleasure seeking is similar, I think, when you chase money or you chase pussy or you chase all these things, and there's not really like an end. I think you come to realize that, it's just not it's not the final answer to happiness. It's like, it's temporary stuff. It's fun. It's something that every guy should do to a point, but like, not like Hugh Hefner, where the guy was doing it till he was fucking 90, like surrounded by some retards that didn't even want to have sex with him. Like that, I saw that, and I was just like, man, like, I don't want to do that.
That's not your aspiration. You're not looking at Hugh Hefner, because
it was like initially, growing up, I was like, the guy's the fucking man. He's doing it. He was like the original Playboy, and I always wanted to do that. But after I did it for a long period of time, I just realized like I had more fun hanging with my friends, having, interesting conversations, doing business, doing things like that created something. Like the rise up, I always felt like was better than the top of the mountain. I got to a lot of the tops of the mountains, and I looked around, and I was like, all right, it's cool. What's next? And yeah.
Did you ever see his interview with William Buckley in 1966?
I didn't know.
So he's doing this interview explaining that the idea of monogamy comes after polygamy. And he's explaining this to Buckley. Buckley's a conservative guy. And then, the interview is going back and forth. I don't think man can be monogamous. I think man is polygamy. You almost got to get out of your system. And then the way they cut this video, it ends with him at the end of his career with 4 wives, saying the fact that he never became monogamous. So can you like see yourself with, we've read about it, everyone's seen the videos. Hey, what's the most in a day? 9. How many have you been? 3. For how many days? This, and all these numbers that you openly talk about. Can you actually see yourself being monogamous with just one?
So I've done it. Yeah, I've actually done monogamy. And I think it's, surprising as it is, like hearing it from me, I think it's a more natural state. Like I think that if you really like a girl, I don't think it's worth the pain that it causes them to fuck other girls. Like for me, having sex with a bunch of girls doesn't really mean that much anymore. So I don't really care. I think if I was a guy that only had sex with, 3 girls his whole life and now a hot chick came along and she wanted to hook up with me, I think it would be a big deal. And I'd probably regret that. And I would think about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I don't know. I just don't think it's that big a deal. And I think if a girl likes you for the right reasons, it's going to be tough. I mean, there are exceptions. Like there are, bisexual women and women that are cool with it and whatever. But I've found that for the most part, most women are not okay with it. And like I said, if you, are really into somebody, you kind of don't want to like put them through the pain. So I think monogamy is, as crazy as it is for me, a more natural way,
How long were you monogamous? The longest?
I think about a little under 2 years is probably the longest.
And this is in 2017, 2016, or?
I did monogamy for a year in 17, and then I did it for a year and a half in 20 to 21 and a half. And then I also did it before. I did it in like 2009 to 11. So like a couple of years.
2009 to 11.
Yeah.
Were you one of those, like, when you're in boot camp in the back, when you open up your closet that you put your stuff in, you're like, okay, one more week left. One more week. Were you like marching it up?
No, that one was actually easy. But that was actually the relationship that just set me off the planet. So that was like a monogamous relationship. And when that didn't work out, I was like really in love with this girl. She had my name tattooed on her as a whole thing. And when that didn't work out, she was like, basically it came down to, she was going to move to LA to be, pursue modeling. And I didn't want her to do that. And that was kind of like the break, is like, I wasn't going to move to LA. And the funny thing is then I eventually ended up moving to LA and I became famous. And it was like a whole like Gatsby situation where like all the photo shoots that she would ever go on, like she would hear my name and I would be, banging her model friends. And it was just like, she couldn't get away from it. It was a whole thing. But she was, I think, the catalyst that kind of like set me off a little bit, because she actually, had started off Instagram and she was doing the whole like Playboy thing. And this is like back in 2011 when it was all starting out. So
did she break up with you, or you broke up with her?
I broke up with her because I didn't want to do the LA thing. I broke up with her like probably, it was one of those things where I broke up with her like 18 times before like the final.
But those are the wives sometimes. That's who you end up marrying sometimes. Like when you break up so many times.
Yeah.
Did anything happen afterwards? Like, have you guys linked up? Do you guys talk, or nothing at all?
A little bit. Like I put one section of the book. Like I invited her to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and then I ended up falling asleep in the middle of it, and she woke me up. I was like drooling on myself the whole thing. But yeah, I reconnected with her then, and then maybe one other time, but it was
nothing now. It's not something where you. So are you married now, or you're not married?
No, I went to a wedding and I was kind of like, I put on the suit and it was very strange for me because I'm always in shorts, and now it's kind of like I finally did it. I like dressed up and everything.
But you didn't. That was the best, because everybody's sitting there saying, this guy's finally married. They're writing about it,
Oh, they went crazy.
Yeah, that was great. So okay. So Dan, in the company I run, I've been in financial industry for 20 some years, and I experienced two different things with guys, and I'm curious to know what you'll say about this. Guys who got it out of their system early on and they had some fun, and then they got married, they didn't feel like they were missing out on anything.
Yep.
Okay. But guys that didn't have fun and then they had a lot of success, and let's just say they got married and then they had a lot of success, and maybe they had only been with 2 or 3 girls in their lives. Let's say 5 girls in their lives. Then they start making money. Then they're on stage. Then they're getting all this attention. They didn't know how to handle. Oh my God, I love the way you speak from stage. Oh my God, you're so this. Wow, you have such great presence. And then they get tempted. What do you think is the right balance?
Well, that's kind of one of the reasons I'm not a big proponent of marriage, is because I feel like it brings finances into your relationship, and I think it should be separate. And so, yeah, when somebody gets married and then they go make a ton of money and they haven't had a lot of sexual experience before that, and now all of a sudden they're getting attention at a much higher level, it's tough. It's a lot harder for that guy to be faithful than the guy that had done it all before and doesn't really care that much. And so I think that's one of the problems that I have with guys getting married early on, is that it just, then later they feel trapped. Now I have all these, opportunities and I can't take advantage of them. And I think that's natural for a guy. And, now he's got to feel like is missing out, or, I wouldn't feel like that. So I think before you get married, especially if you plan on making a lot of money, you might want to kind of like get out there and do your thing so you don't have that regret.
So for you, you're ready right now. If the right girl comes, you're ready to get married?
Well, I don't know about married. I don't see a lot of upside in marriage. Like I could see, I mean, for a rich guy to get married, it's kind of a negative free roll. It's almost like you're betting half your net worth. You're going to love one girl forever. Like, I think it's a pretty big bet. And I don't think there's a big payoff on the other side of it, because it's not like you have to get married to stay with her. You're like, two people can be together without getting the government's permission. And so if you're having kids and you're not successful, I get it. It makes sense. Or if you've just had, a partner for a long time and you trust her and she's just your fucking person, then okay. But I think when you're 43 years old and you're successful and you're out there dating, I don't know. I mean, what's the upside?
Why, there's a lot of good lawyers. Yeah, he's called.
I mean, there are. In
the right state, and
but you're not going to make any money doing it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a business decision. If you look at it like you can only lose money and you can't make money, and gambling, we call that a negative free roll. So
marriage is out the question for you, out of the question, no interest at all.
Unless she's a billionaire, you know what I mean? And maybe she's proposing, then
she's
let's talk.
85 years old. Yeah. She's probably living in Palm Beach. It's a different profile. I don't know if that's what you're into.
That's not my demo.
Yeah. Then you'd need to come up with a new product for Ignite that you would promote and, to sell to the market. But going back to it, okay, so marriage. While you're going through this process that you're going through, like, kind of changing some of the ways you're living, is faith played any role in you? Are you like thinking God at all? Are you going through that at all? Or nothing that...
Not in the traditional sense. Like, I don't believe in like, going to the church and worshiping and doing all that stuff. To me, the idea of a like God that's up there that is requiring everybody to worship him seems a little strange. I'm not saying it's not, the case, not shitting on people's religion, but it just... I don't know. To me, the more successful people are, or like, the better a fighter is, the less he needs everybody to tell him how great he is, And I feel like if you were God, would you really need everybody to worship you all the time and tell you how great you are? Doesn't seem to, correlate with the experience that I've had. I feel like everybody knows what the right thing is to do, and just do the fucking right thing. Like, that's my religion. Do the fucking right thing. You know what it is, Like, I mean, everybody's kind of got their confidence unless you're a sociopath or something like that. Like, so just do the right thing and, don't fuck people over, treat others as you want to be treated. I think there's a lot of knowledge in the Bible. I think there's a lot of good quotes in there. But as far as like traditional mainstream religion, I'm not, if I were to be anything, maybe Christian. I like the Muslims. I mean, I think that they have a pretty peaceful religion. They get a really bad rap in the media. But I've met a lot of Muslims and they're, pretty morally sound for the most part.
So you would consider being a Muslim?
I don't know enough about their religion. I think I'm going to probably read the Quran. So more to just understand it. I'm not really looking for like a mainstream religion to join, but...
Is there this guy, I don't know if you know him or not, this guy named Andrew Tate. Do you at all talk to this guy?
Yeah, we're friends. Yeah.
I'm obviously being sarcastic. I know you guys have spoken. He spent time with you. Yeah, but obviously he went from, being a Christian to being a Muslim.
Yep.
And now he's pretty loud about it. Does he have any influence with you reading the Quran or not really?
A little bit.
Okay.
I mean, he's a smart guy. He's a pretty smart, well-read guy. So I don't think he would take that decision lightly. He's probably done the research, I don't know. He hasn't converted his brother, so I guess his case isn't that strong, but I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think, there's nothing wrong with learning. I mean, understanding where people are coming from or what they believe in, I think is always good. So
did you hear the reason why he said he became a Muslim?
No.
So when they were in jail, when he got out, we went out and visited him in Romania. And he says, when we went to jail and I converted to being a Muslim, he says, I got hundreds of letters from Muslim brothers. He says, my brother who's a Christian, no one wrote him a letter.